joining us for coming into the Game with No Rules podcast. It's a Friday, the sun is shining, it's a good day. We're joined by a very exciting guest. We're so pumped to have Trina with us. Jordan, I'm going to put you on the spot because you have known Trina longer. Do you want to do a bit of a fun intro?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Trina for a couple of years now. I was instantly grabbed by the vision you had for Winnipeg and needing better indoor growing options year round. We have such a good climate for that because it sucks outside a bunch of months of the year. It makes it hard to grow anything. And we have a lot of space. And that vision and the passion and just like the energy you bring to this idea of bringing like year-round growing to places like Manitoba is just such a cool idea for me. And so I've been a big fan ever since. I've seen you do some really cool projects, both commercially with some First Nations, with all sorts of different things from small to big. I'm really excited to chat with you today just to hear, what's going on and what you got cool that's happening.
Oh, thanks, Jordan. That's a very nice intro. That's a very nice way to put it.
Absolutely. Well deserved. Well, why don't we start there? Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those projects you've been able to work on over this last little while, or initiatives you've been part of through the work you've done?
Sure. So I guess just for anyone who's listening doesn't know about Little Greenhouse That Could, it's a consulting company that I started about 4 years ago. And, I didn't really have a plan or, the next steps or a background business. I just really wanted to make Manitoba this hub of controlled environment agriculture because I just felt like we really needed to be able to grow our food all year round. And so it started just with us selling indoor growing systems, but now we're doing a lot more in the commercial side. So we like to start clients out in this phase 1 set of services, which it essentially, tells you if a commercial greenhouse is feasible in your spot. And so what we do is we look at, different design options. We look at crops, what's the best crop for you to grow. We look at who's going to buy your crop. We do business plans. And then we do, an overall feasibility study where we assess here's 3 different ways that you could start with a year-round growing facility. Here are 3 different types of options. Which one, makes the most sense right away or as, first step? Which ones might make sense, later on? And doing all this work really helps to get our clients educated on the greenhouse space. The greenhouse industry, especially in Manitoba, it's really hard to learn about because we have so few year-round greenhouse veggie growers, or fruit growers. So I found that a lot of what I've had to do over the past 4 years is go to Ontario or go to, BC or go to the States to learn more about how people are, using greenhouses year-round to make money, grow fresh produce. And so a lot of this phase 1 service, what we do is we really help educate people on how other people are doing this successfully and, making connections for people.
I think you at one point went to Amsterdam too, did you not?
Oh, yes.
To go and tour some stuff there? Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
I remember that being pretty cool.
Yeah, that was for Green Tech. So Green Tech is probably one of the biggest conferences in the world on the greenhouse industry. Amsterdam's or the Netherlands in general are really well known for being really good greenhouse grower operators. And so, vendors, suppliers, service providers all across the world, they go to Green Tech. There's a huge trade show. And then while I was there, not this past year, but I went last year and I'll be going this upcoming next year, we got to take a bunch of tours of, greenhouses in that space. And, we got to see a horticulture research center started up by one of the founders of their international, horticulture school. So it was super cool, learned so much about what kind of advancements exist in the world outside of, Manitoba, Canada overall. And yeah, I'm so grateful to share all that information that we've gained over the past 5 years with clients. And it's so interesting too, when you go to the Netherlands, if you get to a building rooftop, you look down and it's all glass. It's just a sea of glass. It's so So
Ooh.
That's
cool.
cool.
They're just all beside each other, because the Netherlands, like, there's not that much space, but they grow so much produce. They've really learned how to be efficient.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. They've just like maximized their space and they've
Mm-hmm.
done the work to figure it all out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's so
we're
smart too. And I get like when I first met you talking about Manitoba, like we have the same thing here. We actually have a ton of space too, and we have the ability to like we have pretty reasonable energy rates. We have pretty reasonable property rates. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not crazy to think we could do something similar here, which is why I love that you're kind of going to all these hotspots to learn what's working and bringing it back.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously you do more than just Manitoba, but I just love that it's here. I have a that little chip on my shoulder of Winnipeg's a pretty awesome place. Manitoba's a pretty awesome place. It'd be cool to put us on the map for a few things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I think with the greenhouse industry, there's such a big greenhouse footprint in Leamington, like Southern Ontario. Um, and a part of that is it's just a slightly warmer climate. So again, slightly easier to do. But really, a huge reason why it's so big there is because a family or two from Italy, immigrated over to Leamington. And there was like one, grandpa who started up a greenhouse, and then all of like the children and grandchildren of that family had that knowledge because it was passed down, and they all started up these like big greenhouse companies. So like the name Mastronardi is really well known in
Okay.
Southern Ontario. But it just goes to show that like the greenhouse industry can be so prominent because of a wealth of knowledge. So if we just get that wealth of knowledge and bring it here, why can't we do something similar? Yes, like greenhouses, they'll be harder to um, execute in Manitoba just with like a colder climate, but it's not impossible. We can definitely make it work.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I think
mhm,
it's like just another challenge to solve, right? And you talked a little about like bringing that knowledge here, and it's really like a knowledge problem. I
mhm,
remember like, well, I don't even know how long ago now, 15, 14 years ago, something. I started at Bold Commerce, and they were one of the
mhm,
few tech companies here in Winnipeg. We had a couple, that you could speak to, but like tech in Winnipeg was pretty minimal. You kind of had to know the right people to get involved with it. But what we did was we just like went and asked people questions who weren't from Winnipeg. We talked to people in Toronto, talked to people in Vancouver, in the States, overseas, and we just brought the knowledge here. And now you look at Winnipeg and like it's a pretty healthy tech ecosystem. Like,
mhm,
we're not rivaling any of the big cities, but people know lots of people who are in tech now in Winnipeg, just from bringing the knowledge in, making it easier to get access to people who knew what they were doing. And so I see the same possibility here of really just all it's going to take is a few people to get going, share the knowledge, build a community, and it'll be able to grow from there.
mhm. Did you have to go to a lot of conferences, Jordan? Like, how did you get all that knowledge in the tech industry when you were building that?
A lot of it was, so we did go to lots of conferences. So we worked with we built apps for Shopify, like the e-commerce platform. And so we would go to Shopify Unite, and they would have partners from across the world come to Shopify Unite, so we could talk to all of them and get
Mhm,
advice from them, tips, ask for questions. We did some hiring out in Europe for a while, where we brought people from Europe who wanted to immigrate to Canada. We brought them through the work
mhm,
program so they could come work at Bold. That brought us some extra insights. When we got investors from both Canada and in the US, I believe we had some footprint there. So we just got like wider and wider variety of people who had seen things already, just to help us learn what we had to figure out. And then when we would go to meetups in Winnipeg, we could share knowledge with our friendlies, right? You
mhm,
always have companies that you're just like, hey, we might hire each other's people every once in a while, but we're generally going to be on good terms, and we're going to share and help each other because high tide raises all boats. If tech
mhm.
is more successful in Winnipeg and we get better funding from the government, that was another big piece. Is
Yeah.
the more there is, the more you can lobby for government support. And so same thing with this. Like the more people who are interested in it, the more likely we get a grant or a program around indoor growing that can support people who are wanting to get set up while it's a bit more difficult to in the province.
Yeah,
So
totally.
really interesting angle, and I think like I agree, that's the missing piece, a little bit more information and knowledge, and it becomes easier for people to do this instead of this overwhelming task.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because like for one person to learn about, you know, the whole greenhouse industry. It takes so much time and so much money to
Yeah.
get to all these places. So I'm hoping, like, I am very willing to, you know, share information and knowledge of what we're doing. We tried to start up a program at the biosystems engineering department. It got canceled for the fall, but, you know, we're hoping to start in the winter or potentially like another semester, maybe when like there's a bit more of a greenhouse presence in Manitoba. But I think, like, you know, having meetups or, you know, workshops with, you know,
Yeah.
people who are in the similar space, I think that'll be really important.
So this is totally not podcast related, but just because we're here, we're talking about it. We bought lettuce at the little store here at the trailers. It's like Spruce Sands RV Park. They have a store that they manage with like ice cream is the main draw, obviously.
No.
But they bring in like odds and ends to just like if you forgot something in the city, they'll have like some stuff. So we bought lettuce from them, and sure enough, I opened the thing and it's in one of those little cocoa pods or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
2 heads of lettuce growing out, and they were like big heads of lettuce. And I would like, it's probably some of the best lettuce we've had. We used it for taco salads. It was great. And I'm like, that for sure was grown indoors somewhere, probably somewhat locally, that they're just bringing into the store here. And it like, that's the kind of stuff that I just think it opens up so many more possibilities for these smaller towns, for the more remote communities, for anyone who has any kind of needs of self stability or sustainability. Like, you can now. You just need to invest in the getting a group of people who know enough to be able to do it.
Yeah. Was it Inspired Go or Inspired Greens?
I'm not sure. I think the bag's. I'll check when I go back into the store now because I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we were so busy eating it.
yeah, yeah. You should totally check, because that's like a living head of lettuce. So actually, when you cut it, it'll grow again. Did you save
Oh,
it?
no way. No. I'm not
Okay, yeah,
upset.
it's supposed to anyways. I actually have never like bought the living head lettuce.
Okay.
But yeah, that's done from, I'm gonna guess it's probably Inspired Greens. They're a year-round automated grower in Alberta near
Cool.
Calgary. And they have like moving gutter systems where they have like all their cocoa peats seeded. A lot of automation goes in. I think, actually, I don't know if they're on moving gutters. They might just be on like traditional hydroponic beds. I'd have to double check. But I guess, like, on that note, it really depends. I love like these local stores that are selling produce. It would be really cool to see more Manitoban growers in these local stores, because yes, I mean, Canada, period, you know, obviously is great, and we have clients in Alberta that we help. But just thinking like on a hyper local scale, sometimes where year-round farmers can struggle is knowing what the right crop is to grow for the market and knowing how to grow that crop profitably. So there's so many, for example, with lettuce, there's so many different ways that you can grow it. You can do you can do a fully enclosed facility with only LED grow lights. You can have like, you know, a hydroponic setup. You can have even a soil-based setup. You could do a greenhouse on, you know, on these gutters that are automated and they move, and then you can have it in, you know, hydroponic beds, like using deep water culture. Each one of these setups, you need a certain scale to make it profitable. And so, if depending on the market size that you want to serve, some of them aren't going to be possible. So for the Inspired Green setup, that their facility, I don't know exactly how big it is, but it's probably anywhere from like 2 to 10 acres. I don't think it's 10 acres. I think it's in between 2 to 5. And they're servicing like Alberta, part of Saskatchewan, yeah, here in Manitoba. If there were a local, you know, person in Manitoba who wanted, let's say, just service their nearby grocery store, just the, you know, RV park grocery store that you just mentioned in Sandhills, they would probably only need like 2 grow walls. And, you know, as long as they have like a spare room, you know, what would be best is if they had like a separate building dedicated to this. They could have a little small business where they're servicing these their neighborhood and like these stores. It doesn't have to be something huge, but the Inspired Greens, that's definitely a bigger facility.
Okay, good to know. And like, honestly, I think that's such an interesting path, is the small rural communities, or like rural and surrounding communities of Gimli, for example. if someone had something set up there where they could produce into the grocery stores there, plus the surrounding area, let's say, I think that'd be a great small business for somebody, and probably be super profitable, somewhat easy to manage and maintain, and you're going to have demand, right? These towns around you are going to have produce needs, and if you can supply it, great. Much more local, faster, stays longer probably than something shipped from Alberta or further.
Yeah, well, and then too, it also depends on which crop they want to grow, because some
Yes.
crops aren't going to have the same profitability as others. So, specialty herbs, or like specialty edible flowers or strawberries, like there's some crops that have a higher value that you can, grow quicker than others. So that plays a factor too. There's been like a lot of failures in the CEA vertical farm world. And a lot of that is just from, growing, let's say, like lettuce crops and investing too much in your tech and your capital and your equipment, that you can't make your facility profitable. So you can have a good business for sure, but it really requires proper planning. And that's what we do at Little Greenhouse That Could, is we help you plan properly for a facility and make sure that the crop you have selected, you have the right size, you have the right tech, where the financials, it all makes sense. But then the second part is then executing as well, which is why we started up our own mushroom operation. So, we're
I was gonna say that's like the rule you're breaking, is like you're showing everybody now. Okay, I can teach you how to do it, but let's show you.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole vision of Little Greenhouse That Could is, okay, let's get people starting up controlled environment agriculture facilities that are, viable, profitable, and that can last long term. So, we noticed that people really need help with like this whole business planning, feasibility, evaluation side. But once they're done the plan, what's next? Of course, like, you have to build, and we're really working on, developing a project management construction stream of our company right now. But beyond just building, you then have to execute on your plan and make sure that you can actually hit your yield targets, that you can actually sell a product, that you have a pipeline, that you have proper marketing. And so we can do all the planning and feasibility work in the world, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if you want to do this, there is a part on you that needs to take the risk and, actually execute and hit the marks that you have on your plan that you need to be feasible. And so we really want to be a company that can help you through that whole process, so that you have someone that you can rely on long term that will help you get your business up and running. And so one of the ways that we, we have started working on these services is by actually launching and building our own CEA facility from scratch. And so this is a mushroom operation that we've just launched. I've been posting every day on the progress that we've been making, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Right now, we are growing mushrooms in a shipping container. It's called a nibby pod. We're growing them in Transcona. We're growing oyster mushrooms, and we're growing lion's mane. And so we're doing this directly to people, directly to customers. We're also doing it direct to restaurants, and we are wanting to get into retailers as well. But the whole purpose of us launching this mushroom company is to say, okay, we want to do this business planning and feasibility work for you, but now watch us actually launch a successful CEA operation. We really just think it's important to give people an example to go off of, and to really have like a set of steps that we can use to help guide people through, the execution process of their own CEA farms. So if you're tuned in, if you're listening and you're in Winnipeg or any Manitoba, and you're interested in gourmet mushrooms, oyster and lion's mane mushrooms, send me a message on my Little Greenhouse That Could account, and we will get you set up with some fresh mushrooms. We have 50 bags growing right now in the pod, but our goal is to have 2,000 bags growing by the end of December. So we're trying to launch it, pretty quickly. We already have all the capital, we need. Like, we have the equipment we need. We have a really well experienced grower with 15 plus years in mushroom growing on our side. And we've got like lots of folks helping us out with, spreading the word and marketing and sales. And so I think we'll be able to do it, but it's obviously a little nerve wracking making everything so public about, this is what we're doing, these are our targets. But I feel very confident that we'll be able to hit them.
I think that's so cool though, because so often it's like, yeah, we're doing this thing, but we're not going to show you how we're doing it. And we're not really going to talk about it, but it's successful. See, and now it's like, no, like we're actually going to take you along. Like this is the most honest approach to like building a business and showing people like what goes into it. I just think that's really like very refreshing to see. Like I know that word's maybe overused a bit, but it's cool to see like just pulling back the curtain and being like, here's literally everything that goes into this. So you can see there's no surprises. Like, this happened. This is how we're going to try and fix it. Like things come up and it's just like you have to adapt and showing ways that you can just kind of like pivot on your feet and keep going. And I'm very excited to see. I've been a creep in watching the story, so I'm pumped.
Same here.
That's so nice. Thank you for saying that, because honestly, I like when I post, I'm like, is this the stupidest way to build a business? Because I'm like, I'm literally telling people everything. So I hope like, there's of course like a part of me that's like, oh, someone can just go run and do their own thing, and Little Greenhouse doesn't get any business for it, whatever. But I actually don't care if that's the case anyways. I'm committed to us like launching this mushroom facility. I hope people find the posts interesting, or find like, sometimes I don't know, what to post. Social media is like just so not my thing. I don't know if you guys feel that too. Posting like, on social media, it's like I feel like this is so awkward. Why do we have to do this as business owners?
I will say though, like we always joke about this, about the fact that like the thing that you post that is just like a throwaway thing is going to be your best performing post. Like
always.
Holly posted for us, if people drive with their coffee mugs, like an actual like coffee mug with a handle in the car versus a commuter
but with
mug.
no lid.
With no lid. I
just empty like this.
And it was like one of our best performing posts because it was like, oh, do you do this? Is this like completely nuts? Like, and there was just like a little poll, and it was something random, and that has been one of our best performing posts to date. And we have like stuff where it's like, oh, here's these like tips and tricks for like business and operations, and it's like, it's just the fun stuff that's like not polished. It's just a glimpse of what's happening behind the scenes, and it's just like, yeah, it comes across how like genuine you are and your team and everything. So I think that that's always really good, and it's always nice to see on the internet. Like,
yeah, that's awesome to hear about her post. So like, was she just being like, we have to post something today? I'm driving with my coffee cup. I feel like this is a bad idea to do it with an empty lid. I'm gonna, get coffee everywhere. Let's see what other people.
This is a daily thing for her. This is not like it breaks my mind because she can't defend herself. She's not here right now. But Holly, if you're watching this in post, I love you. But she'll have like a bowl of like yogurt, like just a kitchen, like a normal serving like bowl dish from your kitchen with a spoon, and she'll just eat that on the way to work, and it's like impressive to me. And then she also has her open mug. I'm like, the way I would stain the inside of my car so fast.
Yeah.
Like the secondhand stress is high. But she does it, and she doesn't, there's like very rarely consequences, and I don't understand it.
She doesn't stain her clothes.
She's like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, this is a tangent. Sorry, Holly.
The interesting thing though is like, it's so true. And Trina, like your question about like, is this a good social media post or not? Like, I think the best thing you can do is just be super transparent and share the humanness of what you're doing, like the mistakes, the second guesses, the things you get right. And the thing is, like, people can go use whatever AI they want, whatever Google search they want to find facts. Like, all the facts of how to do anything are public domain at this point. No one is hiding any.
That's true.
How do you do blank? That's all available. What you work with someone for, like you, Trina, like us, whatever, is because you want the added confidence of knowing the way your unique situation is set up is going to be handled properly. And that when you have a question about something specific to your setup, you have a person who you can talk to to come and evaluate it, not trying to describe it into something to get the right answer out. So I wouldn't,
Yeah.
like for anyone listening, I wouldn't worry about sharing anything about the back end of your business, even if it was like, here is all the steps we use to do the work. Because even if people have the information, it's rarely the information that makes the difference. It's the support and the confidence to go and actually do it that's the difference.
Yeah.
And that generally can't be done by like a search or a big document of 80 pages. Like, it comes from a person who's done the work, who's an expert, who's gone to gone to Amsterdam to learn about best practices. That's not something you can get from just like a quick Google search or a ChatGPT session. So I would suggest keep sharing. It's awesome. And like the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, people will see themselves in it and be like, oh, she's like me. Like, I run into those problems too, but she figured out how to solve it the next day. That's not me. I would have taken, a month to solve it, or I would have burned the whole thing down, or just like said, forget this. This is nonsense.
Yeah. And sometimes I think too, like a lot of it's just the mindset. It's about like building the right mindset over time. Like when something goes wrong, you can't, and I shared a post on like our humidity issues. This is a huge thing with CEA, is managing your environment and having that dial in process. Projections are always done based on, a crop hitting a specific, yield target. That only happens when you have a perfect climate or, perfect operating procedures and whatnot. And it takes time to get there. So I really try to model things based on that, and like and tell people, like, don't get upset if you don't hit your yield targets right away. Like, we have to be prepared and expecting to not hit those perfect yield targets right out the bat. There's going to be some ramp up period. And I think like where things, where people might struggle is by getting so discouraged up front. But you have to be prepared that this is part of the process.
Yeah. One question I had come in here from Holly, actually. She was watching. She's on LinkedIn.
Sorry,
she wanted to know what your favorite crop to grow was, the simplest crop to grow, and the trickiest.
Favorite crop to grow are probably these mushrooms, just because I'm super excited about it right now. So I think this might be, one of those reasons. The simplest is definitely lettuce, specifically loose leaf lettuce. And the one that gave me the most issues so far is chives. For some reason, chives, to germinate chives, I would just really struggle, and they would never like grow so big. And honestly, I didn't spend enough time trying to like dial in chives. Like we could have, but we were just focused on lettuce. So that's my answer to that.
Okay. Wow. You had that loaded.
Yeah.
I also like like that's surprising to me.
I thought for sure like
about
strawberries
chives?
Or like some sort of fruit would be the tricky one.
Yeah, chives. Well, I mean, they're so easy to grow outside. Strawberries, we haven't done like in the walls yet. I'm trying to get a high tunnel built right now to do strawberries. But we partner with people who like are really well versed in growing strawberries. You would think tomatoes are harder than chives, but tomatoes are actually really easy to grow indoors. Yeah.
I feel like this is the part that I wish more people knew, is like how diverse the range of things you can grow indoors, and not just like indoors in a giant facility, but indoors in so many different setups. Yeah. That's for sure the one thing I've learned the most from like just listening to you talk at events or on LinkedIn or whenever you're speaking, is just like how much wider the range is of things you can realistically grow, even as someone who's not super experienced at indoor growing, which is really cool.
Yeah. I have a quick question. So I was wondering, like, what made you opt for mushrooms? Was it just everything kind of lined up? Like you had an experienced grower who knew about them. It was something you were kind of interested in. Like what led you to choose that as kind of your case study crop?
Well, I was asked to do work on a business plan. And so I did some work, and I just like found that like mushrooms like are actually, quite profitable. And it just turned out that I had this connection to these people who own this pod, like Nibby Environmental, who really wanted to, grow mushrooms in it, that they had access to this space. And I also knew a 15-year plus Ryan Mayone, who's like a really experienced mushroom grower. And so few times do things align that, you've got access to a space and you have access to a head grower. A lot of the times, those two things are like the biggest hurdles and challenges people face when starting up CEA. Like, how do I grow? Who's going to be my head grower? The fact that like we had someone who had all that experience and we didn't have to invest and buy or build a space, it was just there already. Those two things alone, to me, were like huge signals that, okay, if this were anybody else who had come to me and told me that they have this opportunity, I'd be like, are you nuts? You should definitely do this. Like, you already have all these things figured out. You should definitely go for it. So I just thought, okay, I mean, for a long time, like even when I initially started, Little Greenhouse I Could, I always kind of wanted to launch, my own CEA facility at some point. Just this was always part of the plan. And so I just felt like this was the right time to do it.
We have one more comment from a guy named Rick Langau.
Oh, Rick. Okay, yes.
He wants to know who your favorite vendor is and if they're maybe from Colorado.
Aw. My favorite vendor, I've got a lot of favorites, but I love Rick, I love Will, I love Harvest Today. In all honesty, those walls are really good for people who want to start up like their own CEA facility. You can grow a lot of different crops in those walls. They fit like really well in like small spaces. And I think like you can do something quite profitably with those.
Yeah, those are the Harvest Today walls, right?
Harvest Today, yes. Shout out to walls. Harvest Today. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've done some work with them. What are a couple other favorite vendors while we're on the topic? Just again, people might not even know that there are vendors for half these things that are actually companies you can just go look up.
Well, I don't want to play like too many favorites because a part of like
Fair enough.
A part of what we do is like we look at, which equipment, which technology makes sense in certain, spaces, but there are so many people doing good work. Harnois got good high tunnels, has good greenhouses. Rovero has some really interesting stuff. There's FGM, who has really cool moving gutters. Green Automation has really cool moving gutters as well. Their climate controls, there's so many. The Priva, Hugendorn, New Leaf, all of I don't want to pick favorites because honestly,
I just love that you're rattling off so many.
I know the technology and the equipment that is out there is really impressive. I think, everyone has like their own pros and cons to using it. And there's like a right application and setup for, lots of different vendors.
Yeah. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Cool. I want to ask one more question. I know we're like past time, but like, is there a rule or something that you follow personally in the way you do business that like has helped you a lot or has kept you going or is meaningful to you? Like a way you approach things that you think maybe not unique to you, but you think you do and works well for you?
I guess the rule that I follow is just to not give up. Even like I feel like when things are really hard, I really try to just like narrow in my view on like, okay, I know where I'm going. Let's just look at what the next step is, or like, and then the step after that. So I guess, for example, like when I went on this big bike ride, we were biking like 30 kilometers an hour. And it wasn't a huge bike ride. It was like 50 kilometers, but I had never biked that much before.
That's a pretty good bike ride.
Yeah. I mean, for a biker, like it's not that big of a bike ride, but for me, it was not really like biking that amount. It was a lot. And so I was getting really tired. And of course, like a part of you like wants to stop, but I like literally just like looked in front of my tire, like for 20 minutes of just like, okay, this is what we're doing. And it's the same kind of method that I do for business. Like when the going gets like really tough, I just kind of try to dial in and focus on like what that next step or what those next 2 steps are, and what do I have to do to just get through those, instead of like looking at everything and all around and at this big vision, because like sometimes that can get really overwhelming and defeating pretty quickly.
Totally. I honestly, I think that's something, like, we're going to clip that for sure, because I think way more people need to hear that. And I think one of the things I love most about working with you, Trina, is that you absolutely do that. When things get a little bit crazy, you get focused in and you just like put one foot after the other. You don't give up or get overwhelmed or start taking steps in like 100 different directions. And I think that's what most people need to do, is just like, sometimes you need to just, yeah, it's hard right now, but if I make the next couple steps, it'll get easier. And if I don't make the
Yeah.
next couple steps, it'll just continue to be hard. And that's where people give up or stop trying. And I think the just don't die
Yeah.
philosophy is such a valuable one for entrepreneurship. Is like, if you stay in the game long enough, great things will happen. The only way they won't happen is if you quit the game early. And sometimes that is so hard to do, to believe that like all I need to do is take a few steps and then it'll start coming together for me. And the crazy part is, like, it will, if you do it enough times. It's like really just statistics and probability. You make enough attempts and actions and little bets, eventually you'll get to the one that pays off. But if you give up and stop making the steps, nothing is not going to pay off, right? Like, that's just the giving up, and you go back to whatever else your other option is. So I really appreciate that, Trina. That's a good rule. I like that a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jordan. You really get it. And the other thing that I want to add to it too is the tough part sometimes is you don't know how many of those little steps it's going to take until you get to that point when it starts to get better. So I think like just learning to commit your brain to taking one step after another for however long it takes is kind of what you need to do, because that's the hard part too, is like you get focused and nothing gets better and you're like, oh my gosh, why isn't anything getting better? But it, just like you say, if you do that enough times, if you keep going, eventually it will get better.
I think I tag her into a lot of these, but I Sarah Stockdale, she runs Grow Class out of Ontario, helps people with their digital marketing skills, especially underserved communities, to help them get like paid what they deserve to be paid, because they're all usually awesome and just need to have the confidence to be awesome. Anyways, her entire thing was training model. She does in-person training a lot. That's how it all started, but that was before COVID. Then COVID happened. All their in-person training went away. They had to go digitally. No one in their team knew how to run a good digital like learning course training session live yet. They didn't know how to build the community aspect that was building so strong in person. And she, at multiple times, she had given this talk to give all this info. At multiple times, she'd considered just shutting it down, trying something else. But her friends gave her the advice of like, just don't die. Just go cockroach mode, stay alive, do whatever you got to do to just stay in the game. And sure enough, they figured out how to run great live digital training sessions. They figured out how to build a thriving digital community, and they've never been better than they are right now. Their community's huge. She's speaking on all sorts of things. They've been able to grow their team just because they stuck around, right? She wasn't any smarter than the next person. She's a very smart person, but like it wasn't an idea or like some genius thing that happened. She just stuck around long enough that they figured it out. And that's like stuck with me. And every time I hear a reference to that same idea, I just like remember how important it is to, if you believe in what you're working towards and believe in what you're building, the game is not come up with a magical idea. The game is keep putting the left foot forward and then the right foot forward and the left foot forward and the right foot forward. And eventually you'll get to where you want to go. And just don't stop walking. Otherwise you're stuck there in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I feel like that's a really like wonderful little spot for us to tie it up. Just don't die.
Yeah, just don't die. I think it's great advice. And Trina, you nailed it. That's exactly, like, the bike metaphor is perfect too, of just like, look at the road in front of you. Like, it can't be that bad. As long as there's still road, you can keep biking.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, guys. This has been great.
Yeah, this is a ton of fun.
Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to see what happens with the mushrooms. For anybody who wants to follow along, best spot is probably just your little greenhouse that could. I think that's where you're posting everything.
Yes, definitely. Follow Little Greenhouse That Could.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. This is very fun.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. See you, everybody.